about ready to begin.
Goal from the Tampa Bucks. 3:27 to go. McNabb dropping foot. It's intercepted. And the 10 to the 20. Going coast to coast. Rodney Barber to the 50, to the 40. Barber to the 30. Nobody's going to touch him. Rodney Barber. 10-5. Touchdown. Tampa Bay.
I'm going to San Diego.
Of all the plays that I've played here, his play in Philly is still my favorite play of all time.
Everybody talked about Rondé Barber and Sapp and Simeon Rice and John Lynch and the defense that we inherited. And I couldn't wait to meet these guys. And I see Rondé sitting there, and I'm like, "You're Rondé Barber. You've heard it before, but thought you'd be a lot bigger."
I'm a success story, but that success was because I really wanted to be successful. I feared failure more than I wanted success, and it all started somewhere, and that was with people, doubting me.
Rondé was an unbelievable student of the game. I mean, from being in the room, studying his opponent, being in a spot in places where he needed to be at certain times, he was the most accountable guy on the field.
The snap, McNabb dropping under pressure. His ball knocked away. Rodney Barber forces the fumble.
A guy like Rondé always shows up. When you turn on the game film, he's a guy that may not have been, some people talk about some of the headline names that are always across the league and Hall of Fame level, but to me, he's right in that conversation.
His hard work, his dedication, and his passion for the game behind the scenes that I was able to see was next to none. I mean, it was just the best.
He's hit. He's crunched.
Nothing.
He's clobbered. He's lassoed Rondé Barber.
I think he found his niche by working his butt off to embrace the role that he was asked to play.
Let's go, boys. Stay locked in now. Push to be elite right now. Push to be elite.
He was a special player, definitely one of the special guys in Bucs history.
We asked him to do a lot of things, and he just continued to work at it and get better. And he went about it in a quiet way. I think that's one of the things that I appreciate about Rondé is he has a humble cockiness.
Everything goes according to plan all the time. Not everybody's a first-round draft pick. I think more times than not, it's the people that are able to overcome, players that are able to overcome adversity, that end up better off at the end, and that was me.
When you put the helmet on Rondé Barber, he becomes one of those super action heroes. Something happened to him on game day. He's the most, I think, complete football player I ever coached. Pound for pound, the toughest guy I ever met. He was awesome. And he's going to put a red jacket on. He deserves it. He'll put on a gold jacket too, quick.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today as we honor one of the greatest players in Buccaneer history, Rondé Barber. You take a look at Rondé's long list of franchise records and personal accomplishments, and it's clear why we're here today. When it comes to Rondé, the numbers and stats only told part of the story. It seems impossible to imagine now, but when we drafted Rondé in the third round of the 1997 draft, he was the 16th defensive back selected in that draft. 16 before him. Rondé played in just one game as a rookie. In his next year, you could see his potential. And by his third year, it was clear that he was special. All you had to do was turn on the film to see just how important he was to the success of our defense. The Tampa 2 was the gold standard for its time, and it was anchored by Hall of Famers Warren Sapp and Derek Brooks around the line of scrimmage, and John Lynch and Rondé Barber in the defensive backfield. By the time we secured our victory in Super Bowl 37, Rondé had established himself as the premier cover corner on the league's top-rated defense. But he was so much more than that. Rondé was also extremely gifted at rushing the quarterback off the edge and creating momentum, building turnovers that could turn games and seasons around. At times, it seemed that he could do it all. Great athletes always have that one signature moment that defines their legacy. For Rondé, that was the 2002 NFC Championship game in Philadelphia. On that day, he turned in one of the most dominant performances in NFL postseason history by making 3 tackles, forcing a fumble, posting a sack, and of course, sealing our trip to the Super Bowl with his 92-yard interception return for a touchdown. That last play still stands as one of the most iconic plays in Buccaneer history. Rondé retired in this very room in 2013 following a 16-year Hall of Fame-worthy career. He amassed a collection of career accomplishments and team records. He is the only player in NFL history to record at least 40 interceptions and 25 sacks. And for the record, he finished with 47 interceptions and 28 sacks. His 232 career starts are a franchise record and the 3rd most by a defensive back in NFL history. His 215 consecutive game starts are tied for the 6th longest streak in NFL history. And his 1,231 tackles are second only to Derek Brooks. He was a 5-time Pro Bowler and AP All-Pro selection. The list of accomplishments go on and on. So how do you define greatness? Is it how many records you break? Is it the number of Pro Bowl selections you receive or championships you win? All those things play a part, but the true measure of greatness is when you could leave a lasting legacy off the field that matches all of those on-field accomplishments. Rondé Barber has certainly done all that. In his life after football, he has continued to enjoy success in the broadcast booth as one of the top NFL game analysts for Fox Sports. We are fortunate that he and his wonderful wife, Claudia, along with their daughters, Yamil and Justice, have made Tampa their home and became such prominent members of our community. In closing, I'd like to encourage our fans to join us for a special afternoon on Sunday, September 22nd at Raymond James Stadium, when Rondé Barber leaves the broadcast booth at halftime and we celebrate his one-of-a-kind career as the 13th member in the Buccaneer Ring of Honor. Rondé.
Finally. 16 years seemed short compared to the 7 years I waited for this. Thank you all for being here. I give my love to my family here, my friends. At the end of the day, that's why I played. So, Yamil, Justice, thanks for taking time out of your busy teenage schedules to join your father. Claudia, I love you. Thanks for making me me, I guess is the best way to say that. How you doing, Kyle? You all right over there? You're the only person in here with a 20 jersey on. Love it. My love and thanks also to the Glazer family. I've been fortunate. 16 years in one place. In today's NFL, it's unheard of. And I've had a blessing, really, to be in one place for this long and become more than just an employee for them. You know, I think we all feel that way, or at least people in the building. But for me, it transcends that. We become close personal friends. My wife sends them Christmas and Hanukkah presents, so thank you guys. This means a lot. To my teammates, I see a lot of you here. Can't miss Warren in the back. I thought about wearing that same top, bro, but I couldn't pull it off. I think back to those first years, actually, speaking of Warren, and I was a rookie, and I don't think he accepted rookies too well. I had a locker with Dave Moore, and it was like 3 down from Warren, and I accidentally bumped a glass of water, a cup of water, into Warren's locker. For the next 360 days, he threatened to terrorize me at camp. But he didn't. And actually, you know what turned that around is when I finally got on the field and started playing. And he started calling, hey, that Randy,
You know, I don't know why he called me Randy, but he always called me Randy. That Randy, heck of a player. You keep watching this Randy. Monty took hold of that and called me Randy for the rest of my career. And then they finally got my paychecks right. I think my fourth or fifth year in the league. So, how long have I waited for this? I've waited this for a long time. There's a great list of predecessors into this Ring of Honor: Leroy Selman, John McKay, Doug Williams, Jimmy Giles, and then the list of people that I was with Warren, Derek, John Lynch, both of my coaches that I have the utmost respect for, Tony Dungy, who drafted me, and then John Gruden, who took me to a Super Bowl. To be up there with those guys it's humbling. I mean, I'm not going to say that I'm entirely humble. I think Derek characterized me correctly. But this is something that I really wanted. It means a lot to me to be able to share a dais with those guys. Look up at that, the facade at the, I don't even know what side of the stadium I'm going to be on. Which side am I on? Am I right next to these guys? Be able to look up there in years from now and be like, that was one heck of a team. You know, kind of completes the circle of this defense. And there's plenty of other notable guys. Simeon Rice comes to mind. Dexter Jackson was a Super Bowl MVP. But to be immortalized with those guys, it's pretty awesome. And I think Brian said it best. This is important to me because it's the community. I love this community. I'm never going anywhere. Me and Claudia bought property in Virginia, and we talked about moving there. And it's like, why would we leave here? Everything that I gave here has been given back to me 1,000-fold. And I don't think I could ever leave that behind. So thank you. This honor gives me a chance to reflect back on my career and just how I've come through. 97, I was drafted. Mentioned it, I only played in one game, and it was not a very memorable game. But I played in a playoff game that year, and I distinctly remember Herm Edwards, who was my DB coach at the time, walking up to me and said, "You're going to be happy this week." And I was like, "Happy?" I've been sitting in the, I've been taking care of Warren's jewelry all season. Why am I going to be happy? He's like, "Well, you're playing this week," and started at nickel against the Green Bay Packers after we had beat Detroit at home. And that was really the springboard. 98 came along, got a little bit better, started to learn to be a pro, started to perfect my craft. And I give Monty Kiffin a lot of credit here because he allowed me a chance to pioneer a position, right? The people took the nickel for granted for a lot of years prior. But he treated it like I was Derek Brooks. I mean, I went to linebacker meetings. When they ran the ball, they expected me to make tackles. And it really became to define what Tampa 2 was. You didn't have to put your weakest corner in there. You put your best corner in there and let him go make plays. And I made a ton of plays. Move on from Herm, go to Mike Tomlin, who challenged my greatness. He was the first one to tell me, "You ever heard of this 2020 club?" And I said, "No, what is that?" He's like, "It's the one you're getting ready to join, and you'll be the first one." So there was a challenge there. And I got to be coached by Raheem and Jimmy Lake, two guys that I have the utmost respect for to this day. So when I look back at my 16 years, it wasn't me. It was everybody around me. There's a lot of people that made me the player I was. It made me great. And I look at this and I'm saying, I'm going to be in that stadium because of those guys and for those guys. And it brings back great memories. I'm looking forward to this. Week 3 seems like it's right around the corner. It's a work week for me, which is probably a good thing. I don't have time to think about everything that's going to be going on. I get to have my brother in the booth with me. He'll take over while I do some acknowledgments down on the field. Give those guys at Fox a big round of applause because they made this happen. Brian Ford gave him a call and said, "Hey, we need Rondé for week 3." And those guys, John Ince, Eric Shanks, Jacob Ullman, Brad Zager, said sure, and get to make that happen. So I thank them as well. I'm going to open it up to you guys for questions. Don't ask me about the Hall of Fame. It's about the Ring of Honor.
We have microphones on either side. Please raise your hand and one will be extended to you.
Come on, Ira. Ask me a good one.
Rondé, congratulations, first
Thank you,
of all.
man.
Rondé, admittedly, your rookie year wasn't the kind of year that you anticipated. Was there a game or a moment maybe in '98 that where you kind of said to yourself, I belong here, I can excel at this level?
I don't know if there was a specific moment, Ira. There was definitely a feeling that momentum was building in my career, and I felt that offseason. I mentioned learning to be a pro. I was learning to work my butt off and going out and saying to everybody, I'm doing something that my peers aren't doing. And I didn't know if it was true or not, but in my head, that's what I was doing. And then we played, if y'all remember, we played Minnesota, Randy Moss's very first game, and Floyd Young, who's a good buddy of mine, came in my class with me, was our starting nickel. And Floyd Young didn't play that second week because of the game that Randy Moss had week 1. And I took off. There was, you guys also, when you were here, remember Anthony Parker. So go back to the game he got hurt. That's when Rondé Barber became Rondé Barber. Took his opportunity. I took my opportunity when he was gone and never let it go. And to be honest with you, that stuck with me for the rest of my career. Because we drafted a lot of corners. We drafted a guy right after me, Brian Kelly, who I had the utmost respect for. But with Donnie, myself, and Brian, it was competition. Very similar to what it is now, Jason. Good job drafting a bunch of corners. One of them will become a Ring of Honor guy at some point. But yeah, that's where it was. It was the competition. It was the like I mentioned earlier, the fear of failure. I wanted to be better than those guys, and 98 just happened to be the year that came to fruition.
Rondé, Scott
Yes.
Reynolds, PeterReport.com. Congratulations.
Thank you, Scott.
Not
Thanks
a question.
Thanks for all the kind words over the years.
Yeah, appreciate it, yeah. Not a question about the Hall of Fame, but you deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. I think I speak for a lot of people when I say that. A lot of your Hall of Fame-esque numbers are certainly great, but your consecutive streak in terms of games played is one that I think is probably underrated. Over a decade of playing 16 straight games, was there ever a time where you were a close call not playing in a game?
Yeah, plenty.
Is any that stick out to you?
Look, you don't play 15, I won't count that first one, but you don't play 15 straight years, 16 games in a row without, some fudging on the injury report, Todd Torselli, I'm probably his favorite player ever, our trainer back then, because I would never go in the training room. I do all my treatment at home. I had my various modalities that I dealt with by myself. But I never wanted to see anybody else do my job. That's the way I approached it. And I know some of that's changed. The money's different now. But as far as I was concerned, there was, aside from a broken bone that I couldn't play with, I was going to play. There was actually my second to last year, the year I broke my forearm. It was fortunate that it was week 17. I wouldn't have been able to play with that. But otherwise, no. Pulled hamstrings, quads, which I did. Actually scored my first touchdown in the NFL, interception for a touchdown with a pulled quad. Thanks to, well, I won't say who it was. I don't want to put him on blast like that. But there was nothing that was going to keep me off the field. I felt like I was better half speed than the guy behind me, and that may not have been true. But that was my approach.
Rondé Gary, a lot of us have written over the years about how the ball seemed to love you.
Yeah.
How much of that was pure instinct, and how much of that was preparation?
I'm glad you asked that question, because I meant to say something about that when I in my remarks here. Instincts are uncoachable. If you follow the game, you figure out where the ball's supposed to be. So being in the right place at the right time, there's a science to it for sure. But there's also a point where you create your own luck. Does that make any sense? I know Derek did all the time, created his own luck, being in the right place. That year he had, how many interceptions did he have for a touchdown that year, the Super Bowl year? I mean, he knew where the ball was going. And we were fortunate enough in our defense to do a lot of simple things. So there was really nothing that you could do to confuse us or to, oh, we've never seen that before. When you get these defenses that do a lot, you got to learn a lot. We didn't have to learn a lot. We could perfect the little things that we knew. And so we're always in the same place at the right time. And it brings me back to a story. We were playing New Orleans, and Deuce McAllister, they ran these deuce formations. So I don't want to technically confuse you guys, but dead side of the line of scrimmage is where I played. And you'd always have a puller come around, a guard. And I remember Monty saying, you got to turn that guy back. You got to turn that guy back. I was like, why do I got to turn him back? If I spill him, it gives somebody else free to come make the play. So Monty was like, you're turning him back. I was like, okay, Monty, I'll turn him back. Ran a play. Puller came around. I spilled him. And when I spilled him, Deuce McAllister ran into the guard and dropped the football. And I picked it up and scored. From then, rest of the time on, we spilled that guy. It's just the way it worked. So you create plays. I created a lot of opportunities for myself, running to the football. My last year, Kansas City touchdown. I mean, I could have just stopped when Biggers deflected that pass, but I ran to the ball and caught it, scored. That was the nature of football for me. Had to work harder than everybody else. So,
Rondé, Rick Stroud.
What's up, Rick?
Hey, we all remember, of course, the Philadelphia game. What's your recollections about, going into that game? Did you think you would factor in so many different ways? Yeah. And that was a year, too, you were completely slighted for the Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
So we remember that.
Yeah, not just me. I mean, 2001, I led the league in interceptions. My first All-Pro year, first Pro Bowl year, defensive back of the year. The following year, Brian Kelly led the league in interceptions. He had 8 interceptions that year, led the league. He was slighted more than me. And the fact that neither one of us made it, and 3 guys on Philly did. Yeah, there was something there. But I hear a lot of people talk about being in a zone. I wasn't in a zone that day. I was just hyper focused and hyper ready to make every play. And I did. The one thing. And I've gone back and watched the broadcast of that game. It's sometimes fun to do that. We all do that. Hear if they have anything good to say about us. And the overriding theme was the Philadelphia Eagles were going to pick on Rondé Barber. It was. Troy said it 100 times. At the very end of the game, after that 92-yard interception, Chris Collinsworth captured it. He's like, I've never seen a guy dominate a game like that. And it was exactly right. And it wasn't because I was doing anything more than I normally do. It's just all the plays that they were going to pick on me with, I made the play. So it's the nature of this game. You get those opportunities to rise up and be that player, and that day it was me.
Rondé, Jenna Lane, ESPN.
Hey, Jenna.
How are you? Before you guys got to that NFC Championship game and everything, there was another NFC Championship game, a heartbreaking one in '99. What did that do to fuel you guys' journey and yours in particular?
Yeah, that was gut-wrenching. It still is when you recollect it. But we were a talented defense. We had talented guys on offense too, but we were really talented defense. We could have won on our defense alone for 3 or 4 years. We all say that. Fortunately, it doesn't happen. The ball bounces different ways. 99, you think destiny. It was the Rams' time. That's the only thing I can say. Could I throw some excuses out there? Yeah, sure, but I'm not. We had one play to make and we didn't make it. That's usually what it comes down to. But 99, I remember feeling like after 98 not being a great year for us, that 99 was it. But it wasn't. It wasn't. Our time was 2002. That's when we were supposed to win. Everything hit the correct stride, and we knew we were going to win. It's just the way it is sometimes.
Rondé, Mellissa Thomas with Florida National News.
Hi,
How you doing?
how are you?
Congratulations again.
Thank you.
You mentioned your consistent focus on, fear of failure and basically doing the absolute most at all times. How has that translated into your life off the field? And what do you feel has been your strongest accomplishment?
Well, if I could get my kids to believe that, I'd be a great dad. Is what would happen. Look, I'm a guy that doesn't believe in doing anything just to do it. That's why I throw myself in everything that I'm involved in, and it absolutely is translated. But I think I grew up in a highly competitive environment in my own household. I'm the only not smart one, and I say that in meaning that both my mom and my brother are straight A valedictorian type people. So my mid-3 whatever GPA was, lagging. So I was always in a competitive environment, and the nature of that translated to sports. It translated to football for sure. I always wanted to be a better track athlete than my brother. So that lives on. It's the way I approach what I do now. It's why I put so much work into what I do now. Whether I'm good at it or not, that's subjective. But I know the work that I put into it is real.
Rondé, Kevin O'Donnell. Congratulations again. Straight ahead.
Oh, there you go. Sorry.
Obviously, you grew up around some outstanding, great players with the Buccaneers and some outstanding coaches. In which way did Tony Dungy have the greatest influence with you and John Gruden?
Well, Tony's a great man. And Tony was the first person to believe in me. And I don't know that he would have necessarily said that to my face. I think Tony has different ways of motivating different people. But the manner in which he approached his profession still sticks with me today. The humility, the grace, but the overall commitment to excellence and being bigger than yourself. That's Tony Dungy. There should be more coaches like him, to be honest with you. And I know the game has changed, the player has changed, but he dealt with some pretty big personalities, and he dealt with them pretty well on a team that needed somebody like him. When you introduced John to that equation in 2002, the groundwork was there and the fire was lit, basically. He kept an expectation for everybody that translated into a Super Bowl. And he's a big persona. We all know that. We just go turn on Hard Knocks. You're gonna see it, and it's brilliant in its own right, and it's brilliant in a different way than Tony is brilliant. But coaches can be different, and he was different, and we all felt it, and we won because of it.
Rondé, you're the fourth defensive player from the Super Bowl team to go into the Ring of Honor.
Mm-hmm.
What does it say about how special that unit was?
Well, I mean, how many years in a row were we top 10 defense? That's pretty telling. We already have 2 Hall of Famers. Arguably could have 3 more. We were a dominant unit, and we compare favorably to everybody over the years. So you'd come to the stadium to watch us play defense, and that was fun. We knew you knew what you were getting into when you're looking at 99 and 55 and 47, and we had a myriad of other characters come along the way. Dwight Smith, Dexter I mentioned. We had fun. We had fun because we were good at our jobs, and we all were accountable to each other. So I think that collective accountability mixed with some pretty good talent, I'll say, turned us into a great unit, and that's why 4 of those names are adorned atop of Raymond James Stadium now. Thanks, guys. Appreciate questions, time, and look forward to September 22nd. Cheers.
We're going to break down for just a quick second to get some photo opportunities. Just bear with us for just a moment, please.
It wasn't that bad.